Well, Norm, this is a what year broadcaster?
Well, it's a 1950 broadcaster.
It's refinished.
And it's a refin, which makes it
But it's an old refin,
affordable.
right?
Yeah, it's an old refin, but still a fantastic guitar, but worth a fraction of what it would be if it was, completely original.
But it plays fantastic.
Well, yeah, no, but it's old wood and old everything, but it's just a little bit later finish. But the thing is that collectors mostly want stuff that's untampered with, unless it's got a memorabilia value where it was owned by a famous person.
I like a little soul on it, man. Yeah, I mean this thing. I mean, look at the rust. This chrome didn't come off. This guy's sweat.
Yeah.
No, I mean the thing is, I've always, since I was a kid, when I see old guitars, I wonder who had this guitar. Now, if you have a Super 4,
there's a lot of stories.
Yes. So if you have a Super 400, like the one I have, that I bought from you, it was 1935, the first year.
Right.
Obviously, someone had that money, because that would be like $9,000 in today's money, because that's the heart of the Depression.
$400 was a lot of money in 1935.
Like almost $9,000. Okay.
Yeah, more. More.
Maybe more. So whoever had that is a pro. That's not an
Is
amateur.
either pro or came from a wealthy family or had a very good job. One of the two.
No one. That's why I talked to my mother, who was 97. No one had a job in 1935. But I'm just saying, but the thing is, someone that bought that, or the Emperor I bought from you, that was from the Sons of Pioneers. Right. But that was not an amateur guitar. That was a
a pro guitar. But and most of those guitars went to pros, and that kind of thing. But there were people that would buy something for their son. They could afford it. They bought him something extra special, if you had the foresight or, or just had the extra dough,
My mother said she used to work for $4 a week. So $500, $400 was a lot of money. But besides the point, I mean, to me, and Bonamassa's like that. We like to know the history. It must be an Italian thing. We like to know who had this guitar.
Well, speaking of Joe, Joe recently bought a guitar that a guy contacted me from Florida. His name was Al Bosco, and he had a '59 Sunburst Les Paul. And one thing that Joe is really kind of weak for is if you have a vintage guitar and you have pictures of you playing it when you were a kid and stuff like that. So this guy had pictures of his brother playing it, back in the day. So he sent me the pictures of the thing, and I called Joe and I said, Joe, I'm going to buy this guitar, but I think I'm going to turn you onto it if you want it because it's got what you want.
I thought Joe found it and you said, I'm going to buy it.
No, I found it. Joe drove from Nashville to Florida
to
pick it up.
Oh.
I just got a text that he picked up the guitar.
To bring it back?
He's bought it for him, so he's giving me a little finder's fee for
Is
turning
it good
him on.
shape?
It's in very nice shape. It's got a couple little issues, but it's
60
a
years old.
59 Sunburst Les Paul.
60 years old.
And it is the real thing. So Joe bought it, and, again, whenever he does like history check on it.
Yeah.
I had a Flying V for 40 years that was in my warehouse. I didn't know anything about where it came from or anything. It was a 58 V.
Oh, is that Amos?
Amos.
Yeah.
So
which I bought one, but mine's a fake. Okay.
Yeah. So, within 40 minutes, he had his guys on it, and they found out the history. That
the
it
music
came from
store and everything.
Amos Arthur Music in
Very
Indiana.
cool.
And so Joe actually bought the guitar ticket, flew with the guitar back to Indiana because they're still in business. And there was a picture in '58 of their guitar teacher on the roof with the guitar going like this. So Joe climbed up on the roof with the guitar, took the picture.
Norm, I mean, I've talked to you, we've known each other well over 30 years, and there are people, like when you showed me I think you showed me a 59 or 60 Sunburst Les Paul that still had the hang tags.
Yeah.
That means someone bought it, what was it, maybe $250 then?
Yeah, $283.
That's a lot of money back then. But I'm saying, and maybe his son played it twice or didn't even play it and it was under a bed.
By the way, the one with the hang tags, Joe got that one too. Joe's got
I hate
11.
You, Joe. I really
Joe's
don't.
got 11 or 12 of them. Now, I think So, but Joe really
I'm starting not to like you, Joe. Okay?
He knows his stuff.
Yes, he does, and that
he's
guitar is
dummy.
amazing. No, he's not.
He knows exactly what he's doing.
He grew up
he's buying
in a
the
music
right
store.
stuff. Right. Well, his dad had a store like mine, but that was kind of very small scale. I know his dad. His dad's a great guy.
But he
Len.
grew up around this stuff.
Yeah, and they had a limited amount of money. They would go out and they'd find guitars through newspaper ads or thrift shops or whatever. They go out and buy a guitar for $500, and then next week a bill came in where they had to pay the rent, and they had to sell it for $650 or something like that to pay the rent and stuff. So he kind of went through the journeyman kind of hard working guy to appreciate this stuff now that he can afford it.
And it's in good hands. I mean,
he's treating himself well. He's got like a museum in his house here, which is called Nerdville, but he's got a show on our network, on the All Guitar
Network. I don't
Network,
want to taboo things, but the way
Live from Nerdville is one of his shows.
The way the fires are in here, this is the last place I'd have a
well,
museum.
You know what? So wherever you go, if you're in Florida, you got hurricanes. If you're someplace else,
go to Alaska.
Snows,
everything.
just in Nashville, all those guys lost guitars because there was a flood.
Yeah.
So I mean, you just have to protect them best you can.
Norm, it's funny. When I lived in Philadelphia, a portion of my life as a kid, Market Street was kind of the main thoroughfare because the theaters were around, so they had these old joke stores with costumes and stuff, and there were a lot of pawn shops.
Oh yeah.
And I remember walking in these pawn shops, and up high you might see maybe 90 guitars, and there were no Japanese guitars then.
Yeah. No,
so
that was
I'm sitting there looking, going, there's Telecasters, there's Stratocasters, a lot of jazz guitars. I remember like the Gibson violin bass was like $125.
Oh, yeah. I remember when I was a kid just looking at those things. I'd be looking at things just
and they'd sell guns, everything.
I wish I could get my folks to buy that for me.
Yeah.
They're not that crazy,
And I bought a Gibson amp, an old brown and tweed Gibson amp, and I made like payments of like $5 a week, and they kept it there. It was a pawn shop.
And speaking of which, we were just talking about kind of guitar boo-boos, when do you sell a guitar when you think you did real good, and then you realize that
Joe didn't make any boo-boos though.
Joe's not as of yet, so I mean
yet.
Joe is
Divorce will put some boo-boos in there. Yeah.
I mean, there's how many guitars have I bought since people got divorced and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
But I remember there was a time that I actually probably made more money off of the pyramid scam that was going on in LA years ago than anybody. Yeah. Not from the pyramids. I would have people would come into me and say, "Here, give me $2,000 for this guitar. I'm going to get in the pyramid. I'm going to make 16 times that in 2 weeks."
Mazel tov.
Okay, I'll buy it right. And they probably lost their ass, and I got a good deal on a guitar. So.
Well, Norm, I mean, you've had a lot of stuff, and this is the premier store. I mean, do you ever get impressed anymore, or is it like you've seen everything?
No, you know what? I'm more thrilled when I buy stuff than when I sell it.
That's what I'm saying. When you see the Strombergs, when you saw those two Strombergs, now that's something you probably went like, okay, because you never see those.
Well, I mean, there's the story of you with your Explorer. Now, that's, not to bring up a bad memory, but,
well, I'll tell you the story. I was in a band, this is 1965. And I had a Hofner President. My father bought me, but it was 59, big fat body guitar. So I worked all summer for $150. Okay, $150 I saved. I went to Music City, which was the premier music store in Philadelphia. I mean, that's where B.B. King, when anyone was town, they go to Music City. Okay, so I go into Music City, and I had $150. And again, 1965. That's equal to, dollar was $11. So $150 was a lot of money back then. Right. So I walk into the store, and everything was new. They had the Monkees guitars. Everything was like new, right? So I walk in, and I talk to the guy. His name was Shane Thunder. And I said, hey, man, this is what I got. He goes, go back and look at the old crap. That's what you can get the old back there. So I'm walking by, and it's like there's these cases just kind of haphazardly laying anywhere. And I see this tan case that's square. My God, that's cool. I don't know what the hell it is. I open it up. I said, wow, it kind of looks like a Firebird. What is it? He goes, what the hell do I know? That's the guy. So I go, and then I see a red Stratocaster with like a real worn neck. Yeah. I go, how much is that? Hey, kid, $150 for anything. So I go, wow. And this guitar was a Gibson Explorer. And when I tell you, the gold was still on the pickups. Remember, it's 1965, so 50, it was 7 years old. Yeah. And it was in really good shape. I mean, there was just some little hairlines. So I bought it for $150.
Shane Thunder probably looked at you and he went, this kid's probably not too bright.
No, not too bright.
Let's get him with that plank of crap.
And it was heavy, and I was a skinny guy, and I used to play, we used to call it the flying wedge. We didn't know what it was. And all of a sudden, the Byrds were coming in, and I thought Rickenbackers. I said, I'll never see a Rickenbacker because no one ever saw them on the East Coast. I thought you had to go to Germany to get one. Dodo, did I know they were made out here? So there was this group there called Good God. And they said, he's got a Rickenbacker 12-string on there. And I was really into the Buffalo, Springfield, and the Byrds. And I kind of had this wedge, with flat wound strings on it back then. So I went to, I said, hey, man, you want to trade? And they were giving me like a hard time. I don't know, man. I don't know, that thing's really weird. It had like angle iron, the Rickenbacker neck broke.
Yeah, you better try to find that guy again.
Yeah, well, let me tell you, I did find the guy again. So I traded. I thought I made the greatest deal in the world. Had this Fire Glow 12-string 65, get a Rickenbacker, and I traded. All of a sudden, Mr. Sentimental, I got a little sentimental. I said, hey, man, let me go check that thing out. I got a few bucks. I go in there, and it was, the points were sawed off. So now the guitar was like this big.
Well, that's one less one that...
yeah, that one didn't go for $600.
Yeah,
and put a snakeskin pickguard on, and the headstock was broken. And so I was heartbroken in a sense. And then I remember talking to you, and I saw something on auction. And mine had the Kluson Deluxe tuners, everything on it. And you said, yeah, it went for like $600,000. And mine was way nicer with the case and everything.
Pre-points being cut off.
Pre-points being cut off. So that's no.
You might have gone for the snakeskin pickguard or something.
I might have gone for snakes. Yeah, I didn't go for the points, but I went like this. I go, wow. I mean, did you ever think when you were in Miami, a Les Pauls you could pick up for $250?
No, I mean, when I first started, a Sunburst Les Paul was $800,
and that's a lot of money.
Oh, everybody would go $800. What are you nuts?
Crazy?
I mean, who'd pay $800 for a guitar? Any guitar,
$800 you could buy a new guitar and amp.
Yeah. Oh, you buy all kinds of stuff. At the time,
Shure
like a
Vocal Master
335
for
was like
$300.
Still about $300.
Yeah.
Like in the '60s.
Yeah.
But one thing I did, I'll never forget. I had a stop tailpiece 335. This is before I started buying and selling guitars.
Yeah.
I somehow taught
Well, you actually
my
played
folks
organ or
I
bass.
did.
Right.
I played organ, and I went to bass. So, but what happened was I had this 335, and it had heavy strings on it. And this buddy of mine had a Gretsch Tennessean. And I played it. I went, man, this thing plays so easy.
All you had to do was change the strings.
Right. I didn't. That shows you what I knew.
Course.
And the thing is that, Ernie Ball, with the Slinkies,
yeah.
that really revolutionized a lot of
Oh,
stuff.
because they were all sets.
Well, people were taking like banjo strings and putting them on guitars so you could
Black
bend.
diamonds and stuff,
Right.
yeah.
So, it was a very big thing for vintage once those strings came out, because now people could kind of bend the notes
change.
without,
Yes, it did.
fighting it too much and all that. So I thought that I was buying a much easier guitar to play had I known that it was just the gauge of the strings. So we all made some pretty dumb
you had, of course we know.
mistakes.
Have you ever told the George Harrison story?
Well,
on
it's
film?
in my book, but
Tell us. Do you
so-
think mine's bad? Go
well,
ahead.
I get a call from a buddy of mine. I used to consign guitars to this place called University Music in West LA. And the guy's name was Dale Rossman. He was a friend of mine. And, I would bring guitars over and let him sell them for me. And it was a well-known store in LA.
Yeah.
And then one day he gets a call, and it turns out it was George Harrison saying that his guitar was stolen from him. It was the red guitar known as Lucy.
The
that
Les Paul?
Clapton,
The one that Clapton gave him?
Mhm.
Oh.
So it was stolen from him. It was somebody in a store in Hollywood had it. They sold it to a guy, and it turned out the guy lived in Mexico. He was lived in Mexico half the year in the States. So he was trying to replace that guitar because they got a hold of the store that sold the guitar. They said, well, we sold it to this guy. The guy lives in Mexico part of the time. They had his address and phone number and all that. So they got a hold of him. The guy said, listen, if it's George's guitar, I'd like to have him have it back. But I did buy, in good faith, a late 50s Sunburst late 50s Les Paul with PAFs.
Right.
So I'd be happy to exchange it for another one. Find me another one, and we'll do it. So they called University Music, and Dale called me, and he said, listen, there's only one guy in town who's got, I had three of them at the time. He told George. So, and he told George, come out to the store, and I'll hook you up with this guy. So he calls me up, and, he says, come on over here. I can't tell you what's going on. I go, come on. It was like 10 in the morning or something like that.
At the old store?
Oh, no, I didn't have a store. I'm in an apartment buying and selling guitars out of an
George came to the
apartment.
apartment?
No. Well, let me finish. So So he calls University Music. My buddy Dale at University said, come over to my store. I'm going to hook you up with this guy. So he tells me, he won't tell me who it is. So I said, Dale, I don't really feel like going over there. He says, Norm, come over here. This is really important. You got to do this. So I go over there, and I walk into his store. It's still before the store opened, like at 11.
Mm-hmm.
I got there maybe 10:45, and I walk in, I look around, and it's just Dale sitting there. So I go, Dale, what's the deal? He says, well, I can't. I said, you better tell me what's going on. I just got in my car. I just fought traffic. I just got over here. He says, all right, it's George Harrison. He had his guitar stolen. He was told that if he got the Sunburst Les Paul, he could trade back to get his guitar back.
Yeah.
So, and I said, I knew you were the only one who would have it. So anyhow, and I said, so where is he? I'm looking around. It's just me and Dale. He goes, well, he's next door. I think he was getting a slice of pizza or something. It was a little place that sold pizza by the slice. So all of a sudden, the door opens to the place, and George comes walking in with Mal Evans, who was like the
roadie.
road
Yeah.
manager. So they come walking through the door, and I'm kind of looking at him like, it's like, because at that time, that was the biggest star I've ever dealt with. The first
biggest
star
in
I
the
ever
world.
dealt with.
Yeah,
and he was the biggest. They were bigger than Guy. They were like so big.
Yeah.
So I kept looking at him like, is this a double? Is this like Halloween? Is he like?
Is this the beard, long hair period? George?
He had,
Dirk and the Dominoes type.
Yeah. So anyhow, so he comes into the store, and I told him, well, I have 3 of them, back in my apartment in Sherman Oaks. And he said, well, let's go. So I ended up, he gets in my car. We drive down
George
to my
gets
apartment.
in your car?
Yeah.
Oh,
So
wow.
check this out. So we go.
May I ask what kind of car were you driving then?
It was like a Chevy Caprice or something like that. I don't know.
With the Beatles. My favorite year.
But so I'm sitting there. Mal's in the back, George is in the front, and I'm still kind of looking at him like, is this really George Harrison?
God.
So we get to my apartment building, and I had a parking space underground. So we park underground. And as we get out of the car, like 2 or 3 people see me and George. And, it's like, you have to understand how big, it's like President Obama, President Trump, President,
of course.
Rabbi
A
Shankar.
face you can't miss.
Anybody,
famous
So anyhow, these people see it. We walk up to my apartment. We spend about 2 hours. Meanwhile, Marlene's still in her bathrobe. I said, George Harrison's coming in. She goes, yeah, right.
Yeah, sure.
And then George walks in, with Mal.
You've been on the
and
bomb
it was
too
kind of
long.
like, crazy. Yeah. So, so he comes in. He picks out 2. One
For
to
himself?
keep for himself. One to trade to get his guitar back. And then I had a 56 Strat over there that was beautiful. And he actually hammered me on the price. He was like, George was pretty tight with the buck. And then he said, you see that little Princeton amp? And I had like a minty Princeton, tweed Princeton amp. He said, give me a good deal on that. And I was like so stoked that it was George Harrison. I said, you know what, I'll throw it in. I don't care, And nowadays that amp would probably be worth $2,500 or $3,000. So anyhow, so he ends up buying that stuff. He traded and he got his guitar back. And and by the way, when we come out of my apartment, I walked out of my apartment. Now there's like 150 people standing in the corridor of the apartment, going, "The Beatle is in this building,"
Oh my God!
So, and it was like the talk of the apartment building. And what was kind of really wacky that I kind of put in my book at the very end, this girl comes in, a lady comes in now. She's probably 50 some odd years old or whatever. And she tells me, hey, I lived in that apartment building, when George Harrison came over. I went, oh, great. She says, yeah, it was me, my sister, and my mom. My mom was divorced, and I was 2 girls and the mom. And she said, by the way, my sister's Paula Abdul.
Oh, my
so
God.
I was like, in L.A., you just never know who might be living next to you.
When's the Gretsch Country Gentleman thing come in?
Well, he wanted to trade me instead of buying one of the bursts. His Country Gentleman. At the time, I hated Gretsch guitars. I knew nothing about them.
Because you picked the one with the easy strings, but this is...
Right. No, but I figured, who's going to believe me that I have George Harrison's guitar? And this was before there was any rock memorabilia or anything like that.
You were probably taking a picture with it, I'm sure.
Oh, well, I wasn't even thinking. I was going, I don't want a Gretsch guitar. I want
$1,500
$1,500
What's
for
that guitar worth?
the Gretsch Country Gentleman, probably $1 million or more. It was not too bright. Probably the stupidest thing. Well, how much did you sell your Explorer for there, Albert Einstein?
Yeah. Hey, I sold my Sunburst, the picture I'll send you of my 58 Sunburst Les Paul, which was in great condition. I sold it in 1970 for $400. I thought I said, this guy's an idiot. What a killing. But if you go in today's money, $1 was like $11.76 or 67 cents. So if you times that times 400, it was almost like $5,000 in today's money. And when you're broke,
quite the mathematician. That's all I gotta say.
Well, I became the mathematician now, realizing what an idiot I was trying to sell. But
listen, we all did that stuff. I can't tell you how many guitars I've sold for prices that I wish I had back. This guy Jim Weeder, who played with the band after Robbie left, I sold him a Blackguard Telly that was stunningly clean for $350. I paid
a real one?
A real one. This was like maybe 1971, 70 or something like that. You know, I think I paid $150. I sold for $350. I thought I killed. You know, and now Jim, every once in a while when he's in town or something,
like $20,000
comes in
guitar?
and shows me the guitar. No, it's more than that. Comes in, maybe a $50,000 guitar. Comes in and says, you remember this guitar? I go, yeah, why don't you rub it in? You know, nice
But the
guy,
ones that are really worth the money, Norm, are those pre-World War II 45s. Those are serious.
Well, I mean, you know, there's electric guitar, iconic guitars. There's
but the Martin is the big money guitar acoustics, would you say?
Well, D45 pre-war, I mean, those are
or the triple O 45s.
Or your Explorer, you know. Thank you.
I know, but you know, the funny thing is, I mean, I remember once I went into, it's like, remember the Black Minister Father Divine? Well, they had these like places. They were kind of like what you would call like Salvation Army, but they were for churches. I swear to you, and I can't believe this. I went in there once. I said, "Do you have any guitars?" And there was in a black neighborhood in Philly. She goes, "Yeah, we had some of them guitars somewhere." Oh, it's there. It's under the clothes there. It was a case. And I go, wait, that was an old-looking case. Now, this is 1970. Honest to God. I pull it out, and I open it up, and it was a National guitar, but it was maroon. It wasn't silver. It was maroon. And it was old, man. This thing had to be from the 30s or 20s. And I said, how much? They go, well, that thing's made of metal. I don't know how you play that song. $10. And I took it $10. I got idiot again. I took the finish off. But it was original maroon, like Bakelite baked on. I went there 2 weeks later, swear to you. I said, hey, somewhere we got this guitar over here. It was like in the chipboard case. It was a mahogany Martin. How much? Well, $15. Right there, that's what those two guitars be worth like $5,000 together today.
Yeah, maybe
but
more.
I mean, but that's what stuff was. I mean, people, like you said, before memorabilia, guitars were
don't
under.
Forget, there was no Guitar Player magazine, Vintage Guitar magazine, Guitar World, Premier Guitar Player. You know, all these things. It wasn't even a national phenomenon besides an international phenomenon.
I had one of the first Les Pauls, and I'll tell you why. Because I was in a group called the Love and Spoonful. And I was always wondering, what the hell is that little guitar, John
You were
Sebastian?
into the Love and Spoonful?
I was into the group. I thought my favorite group.
You're into the group.
Not
group.
In the group. Not in the group, no, unfortunately. So I kept wondering, what is that tiny guitar John Sebastian's playing? And nobody knew what the hell it was. And I remember I was reading, like, Tiger Beat or one of those magazines at the time. He goes, and they said, well, what's your favorite thing? He goes, well, my Gibson Les Paul that my dad bought me in 1958. And I went, aha. So I saw this bar band in Philly, and I remember leaning against the wall. This is 1965. I was with my brother. Mm-hmm. And the guy played left-handed, and he was playing a 345 upside down left. And I saw in the corner a 3-pickup black Les Paul. And I said, wow, man, how much is that? He goes, that's about $250. He goes, but I got another one. So it was a TV model. And I bought for $120. But it was all TV beat up, but it said Les Paul. Yeah, it had Les Paul. So then I'm out one night with these guys, and I was really into Spoonful. The guy goes, yeah, man, black dude. So he goes, yeah, I got a Les Paul. He was probably my age, 18. I go, well, really? He goes, yeah, man, just go down. Da, da, da. So I open up the case, and I freak. It was the tan case. It was the 58 beautiful Sunburst Les Paul, the picture I showed you. And I went, oh, he goes, well, I don't trade me. So I said, okay. I traded him that TV special that had no finish on it and my Fender Tremolux amp. So now I had no amp, or only thing I had now was electric guitar with no amp. And I had that guitar for a long time, and I'm really sorry I got rid of that because I have a lot of pictures of that.
Well, you know that John Sebastian Sunburst Les Paul? I played that guitar later on. Waddy Wachtel had that
broken,
guitar. It was, yeah. Waddy Wachtel ended up with that guitar, and I think it's been sold several times.
Well,
since.
I asked Mark Sebastian about it. I go, why did he sell that guitar? He goes, he's not that sentimental about this stuff. Yeah. It had a Chiquita banana sticker on it. Yeah. If you look at John Sebastian.
I don't remember that, but I remember it being flamed to death. And,
he had one that wasn't flamed. The one he played.
This one was flamed and it had a repaired headstock.
Yeah.
And Waddy had that.
Yeah. But the thing would be funny. Let's do like treasure hunt. Let's say, okay, what is a guitar that we've seen guys play, but it just disappeared? So we were talking before, like Pee Wee Crayton, where he had the TV knobs on the Strat. They did a thing on Treasure Hunters. You remember the great singer?
I was on that show.
Josh Gibson, not Josh White.
Yeah.
Josh White was an old blues kind of cabaret singer, and he was great. And he had a guitar. It was a slot head, like a classical, but it was a Guild, because I could tell by the picture it was a Guild. And it disappeared. And this was the TV show to find that guitar. And they found it. And Gil goes, I think we made one. It was for him. And it disappeared. And Josh White Jr., his son, was there. He goes, that's it. And they found it. So it's got to be somewhere. And I was thinking to myself, what makes it rare is that Norm has like the tentacles of like 20 octopus. He knows where everything is. Well, you know where everything is.
I wish I knew where everything was. And now a lot of things have found their way into collections. And
but you would still know if it's in a collection. And that Pee Wee Crayton guitar, for some reason, I don't know why, because it was that red, it was all beat up, man. Cigarette smoke, had television knobs on it.
Well, you know my buddy Rick Vito. I mean, who I used to play with in a band. We used to back up Lowell Folsom quite often, and Lowell had a White Falcon. I remember that guitar being sold at one time through a music store. At the time, it seemed like too much money to me. Now it seems like next to nothing, I
bought a White Falcon. Well, someone bought me a White Falcon.
Yes, one of your girlfriends.
Yeah.
There you go.
That was a pretty good gift. But
that was a good gift.
The whole story with my brother was, you're like really terrible at trying to keep a secret.
Yeah, no kidding.
I walk in, Norm's there. There's someone, I can't mention, that wants to buy you a guitar. I go, no one's ever bought me a guitar. Well, that was before the girl. I go, what? He goes, so somebody just, I said, what do you mean, a secret admirer? He goes, I don't know. And I kept going, who the hell?
I said, I can't imagine anybody liking you enough to want to buy you a guitar. A card. I don't even know anybody likes you enough to buy a card.
I swear to God, I'm going back and forth with Norm on this, right? I'm walking through the store. Who calls me on my cell? My brother. He goes, hey, brother, where are you? I said, well, I'm at Norm's Rare Guitars. And all of a sudden, there's silence on the other end. And he goes, yeah. And he looks like he's reading from something. Have you ever heard of, like, Les Paul? I go, yeah, I got 5 of them. He goes, oh, yeah. About, you were trying to sell me that
J200.
J200. I said, yeah, I got 2 of them. And I said, since when did you ever ask me about guitars? And then I knew the jig was up.
It was funny because his brother calls, asks me, he says, I'd like to buy Frank a Christmas gift. I know he goes to your store all the time. I'd like to buy him a guitar.
Well, he found out because you had your stuff in that jewelry store in Beverly Hills. And he walked in there, and it said from Norm's
Alan
Guitars.
and Lena Friedman.
Right,
yeah.
And that's how he knew, because he never come to a guitar store. He doesn't play.
So, but he calls me up and says he wants to buy you a guitar. And then about 20 minutes later, Frank comes walking in, and I thought it was like some kind of setup or,
unbeknownst. Yeah.
I said, Frank, somebody wants to buy you a guitar. He goes, like, what?
Buzzed or something? And then
what would you like?
Then my brother called. And now, what would I like? My brother, get what you want. Now I can't think of anything.
Well, I pulled out like a Les Paul reissue. I wasn't sure how much you wanted to spend or what it was. I pulled out a 50s J200, which was a really nice guitar.
Yeah,
And then he said, well, I got one, Norm. I said, well, you know what, I got something that you might dig. And I pull out this Epiphone Emperor. And it was
the
like
case
this
is what's
blonde Emperor, with a tooled leather case.
The case was a tooled leather case instead of the Sons Pioneer, which is one of my favorite groups. It was Roy Rogers' band, the Sons Pioneers. And it was a beautifully engraved Western leather on this case on the outside. And I opened it. It really is a beautiful 1940 blonde Emperor. I mean, in good shape. And the guy's cards are in there, Sons of Pioneers. And I said, well, this is, not that I needed an Epiphone Emperor, but I said, but this is like too cool.
He got weak, Frank got weak. And then, then his brother gets on and he's giving me the credit card info and all that.
And he's trying to Christian him down.
Yeah. He's trying to
He's
hammer
doing
me
a George
little bit,
Harrison on you.
But the funny part was, I said, I've been buddies with your brother for 35 years.
Yeah.
He said, I don't know whether to congratulate you, send you a bottle of booze or something.
Booze. You probably should have a bottle of booze if you've known me that long.
So,
but that was actually a very popular show on your online.
Oh yeah, I got over a million hits.
Hits, and I swear to God, I just played at Mohegan Sun Casino. Guys go, man, we love you on Norm. Everywhere I go.
We get people from Europe calling. Some people don't always get your sense of humor.
Yes,
but,
I don't.
Because we know each other for so long. We razz each other pretty good. So
I've done a lot of them, but the thing is, I get people coming up to me that say, we love you on Norms, man. It's great. I said, well, maybe you caught me on a good day. There's sometimes I get a lot of hate mail.
Yeah. He gets his share of each, but you get a reaction one way or another.
Yeah, we get a lot of things. But Norm, I think your new show is called.
This new network. It's called the All Guitar Network that we're on now, and I would like Frank to do a show. That would either be trying to find where certain guitars are, or guitar boo-boos. I sold this guitar thinking I did real good, and I really...
They'll be lining up outside your door.
Yeah.
I mean, Joe Walsh, from everyone we know has made the guitar. That's it, guitar boo-boos.
Yeah.
Guitar boo-boos. You can do that, and you can take it all over the place because everyone has made
Everybody's got a
How
story.
about cars?
Same with
God,
cars.
I can't believe I got rid of this Vet my dad bought me, and now it's worth like $150,000.
Yeah.
Don't get rid of that Skylark.
I had a car that I got from Jerry McGee from the Ventures. It was a Porsche C convertible, and it was a 1960. It was a really cool car, but it had the gas tank in the front of the car. And
that's a little bit of a hazard.
So Marlene wouldn't get in the car. First of all, it had a 6-volt battery, so almost every time I got in it, I'd park it. I'd get back in the car wouldn't start.
Right.
But it smelled like gas, so Marlene just said, I'm not getting in this thing, Well, she wasn't that smart because she made me sell it. I sold it for $14,000.
What's it worth now?
For about 150 or 200 grand.
So don't get rid of your.
Don't get rid of anything.
Don't get rid of the Buick Skylark.
Yeah, when you get rid of stuff after you're gone, and the family disposes.
Well, they're gonna hawk it anyway. I mean, you always wonder, like some guys, like Billy Gibbons. How many guitars do you think he has? 600?
He's got a lot. A lot were given to him. I mean, he's given some away. I know
he's great. He's wonderful.
He sold one to. It was funny because a buddy of mine had knows Billy and got a couple guitars from him a while back, and it was a broadcaster. That was an original broadcaster. I was like number 110, and so anyhow, he sold me the guitar. This other friend, not Billy. And my friend said it was formerly owned by Billy and blah, 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 and told me the whole thing. And so we kind of put something online, about the guitar and that it was, formerly owned by Billy Gibbons. And we had a bunch of calls on it. I ended up, a guy said, I'll take it for $110,000, which we thought was, a good price.
For this?
Wait. So I get a text from Billy or a phone call from Billy saying, Norm, hey man, don't sell that guitar. I don't remember selling that. Could have been stolen out of my warehouse or something like that. So I was like,
panic.
My heart is like going, what do I do? So, and it turns out a few hours later, I get a text from him and it says, Norm, all clear on the broadcaster. Okay. He had sold it to this friend of mine. He forgot he sold it.
Oh.
And and this other guy got it. And there were like 3 or 4 people that wanted to pay me more. I had some guys who wanted to pay $120,000, $130,000 for the guitar. And I had already made a deal at 110. I said, no, I can't back out. I made a deal with the guy. And he was a really good guy.
That's what's so interesting about guitars. Okay, one of my favorite guitars, another stupid move I didn't buy, when you had that George Goebel here.
Yeah.
Where was that guitar? Where's George Goebel's guitar?
Well,
where's Arthur Godfrey's ukulele?
Yeah.
No, think about it. I mean, but they used them. It was a Signer, it was a George Goebel guitar.
Iconic instruments. And yesterday we had Dweezil Zappa was in, who had a guitar that
Hendrix one?
Well, no, he has that still, but he had one that Eddie Van Halen gave him. Is a really cool guitar that was used at the prime of the Van Halen
Oh,
days.
man.
And Van Halen just said, "Here, take it. I'm not using it anymore. Take it." And so Dweezil brought it in. He wanted to get it appraised.
I don't
for
think
insurance
Eddie's a
company.
collector. I think that it's a utilitarian
It is.
instrument
Well,
for him.
with his stuff, he kind of hand pieced them together and wired
Yeah,
them.
he's
and
not
painted
like a
them.
Joe Bonamassa
No,
guy. He's like, all right.
Although he did buy 2 Sunburst Les Pauls from me
Yeah,
back
but
in the
how
day
much
for
were they?
$11,000 for both of them. One of them was flamed up the ass, and the other one was plain that had Grovers. So
I remember the words of wisdom he gave me when I had my first hit record. What did you say to me, Norm?
don't sell it.
No, not my hit record. No, you said.
No, I mean,
now that you're making
guitars.
some money,
No, buy a few guitars. Get your brother to buy.
get
a
my
few
brother
guitars.
and I to buy, and they were like between 6,000 and 8,000, or maybe even less, 5,000, 8,000 for Les
Yeah.
Pauls. He goes, you and your brother should come in, buy 10 of them or whatever. What is
Yeah.
it?
Well, you live and learn. And also the Nelson boys,
Gunnar and Matt.
Gunnar and Matt, Ricky Nelson's kids. I sold them a beautiful gold top for $3,000, and they got in a spot where they actually needed money and they had to sell the guitar, and they came back to sell it to me, and I said, guys, you guys are almost like family to me.
I wouldn't sell it.
Don't sell it. They said, Norm, we got to sell it. And they made a profit on the guitar, and they did
still,
okay.
that
but
guitar's
I said,
worth
don't sell
a
it.
lot
Now
of
it's a
money.
$150,000 guitar. I think they sold it to me for
Now, if I'm
$5,000.
correct, I think Gunnar and Matt told me that his father's J200 with the tooling was stolen or something.
I'm not
One
sure.
of them
but
was
some
stolen
were sold
with the
were at
leather,
Hard Rock Cafe.
and the guy that did all the leather work on Elvis and that was down Ventura Boulevard, Al Shelton.
Yeah.
And he did all the leather work on those guitars in those days. He passed away. But, I mean, I always find that's interesting, or just talking to guys, like you said, guitar boo-boos, or let's find this axe, or something like that.
Yeah.
And you never know when you do a show like this, guy go, wait a second. Now, if you have the right pictures, you go, I've seen that.
Sure.
And it might not even be. It might
It's
be
almost like a fingerprint, like some of the guitars, like the Sunburst Les Pauls.
It might
the
not even
flame.
be a collector. It might have been maybe one of PB's cousins or, hey man, I've seen that guitar.
remember that.
It's in a closet. Well, if they're not players, it's probably
Right.
just sitting around. And that would be.
But these days, people know guitars are valuable, and most of them, the
Yeah,
word's
but
out.
Pee Wee
so-
Creighton is not like a household name.
No.
What happened to Michael Bloomfield's guitars?
Well, that guitar actually was in a nightclub. He left it in a nightclub in Canada, and the guy actually called me and
The Les Paul?
and wanted to sell it. And I was a little afraid to buy it because I thought, well, what if somebody from the family or something comes
Is this
back
when he
and-
died? He was
Well,
dead?
this is before he died. You see, something
He was
happened
sick.
where he had some problems,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
he left some of his equipment there, and he passed away. And I just felt that it could be a guitar.
He would have been so cool to have around now.
Yeah.
Because he was cool. He
Well,
was
I
a
didn't know
real.
him, but-
No, but I'm just saying. But his whole thing was cool, like Jewish guy from Chicago, Paul Butterfield Blues Band. But he was actually before Clapton.
Right, he got
was the
everybody, got
premier-
all the English guys into playing Sunburst.
He
Les
was.
Pauls.
He and what's his name? The other guitar player, Elvin Bishop.
Oh yeah.
They were before Cream. So when they East West when they do that. Paul Butterfield Blues Band, I mean, there weren't many white guys blowing harp like that and playing guitar
Yeah.
like that and stuff. Like Electric Flag was great.
Yeah.
But so, I mean, I think we grew up in a really great era. I mean, we grew up in the era, we were there when rock and roll was discovered.
Well, maybe
Me.
a little bit. You might have been there
What are
when
we
rock
talking
and roll
about?
was discovered.
1955.
Well, you were what?
You're older than me. I was
25.
5.
No, you're older than me.
Yeah.
Well,
but I
never
remember
tell.
we saw the Beatles and Elvis first time on TV, and that changed the whole face of music. I mean,
Oh yeah.
and that's what we listened to. I mean, the radio was very eclectic. AM radio. Get a
It was
little
a good time to grow up because we
Great
saw
time
a
to
lot
grow
of
up.
cool stuff happen.
But the thing I wish, but hindsight is 20/20. But the thing is, it's you would never think a guitar like this could be worth over $100,000. It's a
Well-
bolt-on thing made on a table
We're
saw.
here at the All Guitar Network, and I just want to say I'm going to talk Frank into coming in and doing like a regular thing,
I would love
and we'll
to.
get some other people in that you can harass and interview and do stuff and talk about the boo-boos they made and all that kind of stuff. And
But this is.
I think it'll be entertaining for all you guitar freaks and
You
people
know, the
that
only one's gonna make
don't.
money on this. Him.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So Frank, you call this mercenary network.
Thank you very much.
But
At the
Norm-
Mercenary Network.
The
All
Mercenary
Guitar
Network.
Mercenary Network.
Hey, when all the stuff comes in, but Norm,
But you know what's going to be cool about this network, though? Seriously, we're going to be able to turn a lot of young people on to some
cool
stuff.
stuff.
We're going to curate some of the best footage on YouTube. We're going to curate people, some of the best people that we know that are coming in, some undiscovered talent.
Here's another guitar, Sister Rosetta Thorpe's Les Paul Custom.
The SG
the
Custom,
white one.
yeah.
Where is it? And it had the old tremolo.
Yeah, Lonnie Mac tremolo.
Where is that guitar?
Well, we're going to have to find a descendant of Sister Rosetta Thorpe.
See, to me, that's a lot of work, man. But that's real detective work. And you go, wait a second, and you know what you do? You get a PI. You find out who the relatives are, who's still alive. Do you have any guitar? Yeah, well, I got this. But let me ask you something, Norm. If I find a guitar, I call dibs on it, right? Since you're not paying me.
If you find it, go ahead. You're the detective. You go out there and.
Or we'll go halvesies on it.
All right.
Because I probably won't be able to afford it, so I'll just have no.
That's a deal. Well, let's see what it is, But Frank is like my brother from a different mother.
That's right,
I mean,
man.
We're like family. We've been together for many,
Long
many years.
time.
Don't see eye to eye on everything.
No,
but
we don't.
But
we see
love
eye
each
to
other.
eye on one thing.
Guitars. Guitars are love.
Guitars
right?
are love. That's it, man.
That's it.
Thank
My
you, brother. Thank you.
All right. All Guitar Network, the great Frank Stallone. By the way, if you see that he's playing any place, catch him. Where's your, give us your social media stuff so if people want to see it.
My website is frankstallone.com, and my Instagram is frank.stallone. And my Facebook is very complicated, too, @Frank Stallone. So, because I have no memory left, so I just use my own name.
Well, and, for some of the people who are watching, they might be a little slow. Is A-T Frank Stallone.
Yeah.
Right?
There you go. @Frank Stallone. Yeah.
All right. So anyhow, one thing I can guarantee is if you see that he's playing, he puts on a great show. He's a great singer, great songwriter. It's very entertaining. And some of the comedy stuff, when he starts doing his brother and all that, I kind of fall out of my seat, because nobody could do the voice like that.
No, but the thing is, this is the cleanest show I've ever done. No controversy on this show, right?
Absolutely.
No cursing, no picking on other guitar players, not telling me he has lousy guests, none of that. So it's all good.
All right. So just to clear things up, you can see us at the fucking All Guitar Network just to blow it. All right. We got it in there.
All right, man.
My brother Frank, thank you.
Thank you, Norm.